interesting. I gotta say, your album is fantastic. I don't know,
Thank you so much.
it's an amazing adventure. So, first of all, who are you? And
That's a great question. I'm Justin Roberts, and I've been making music for kids for about 25 years now. And it was something that I sort of fell into. I was playing in a band in Minneapolis in the early 90s and started to work as a preschool teacher at a place called Step by Step Montessori. And they knew that I played music and they said, bring your guitar and sing some songs with the kids. And I started doing it and I just fell in love with it. Um, and started writing my first songs for kids in that preschool. And then kept doing it, recorded some songs, went to graduate school in something completely different. And the kids' music started to take off and I decided to pursue that. So
ah,
yeah, that was like in 97 that I made the first record, and then around 2000 I decided to try to do it full time, and that was when I put out Yellow Bus, which was my second album.
so I gotta say, Yellow Bus is like your one shot to stardom. I must say.
Yeah, that one that really took off. I think we made a really fun video for Willie Was a Whale, and it got some airplay on Noggin at the time, which was Nick Jr., and had us in um, underwater scuba suits and a puppet whale, and it was really fun. I think
One of
that
the
helped spread the word.
pioneers, right?
Say that again.
You're one of the pioneers of Noggin. Uh, since
Yeah, I mean,
since you
definitely Laurie
do
Berkner was more doing it more than me, but we
since
had
you
a couple
do have that
interstitial videos
title,
on there.
since you
Yeah,
do have
that's
that
nice.
title, do you have some sort of relationship with Laurie Berkner?
Other than we both started at exactly the same time, because she made her first record in 1997 too, but we had no knowledge of each other until the early 2000s.
Until Noggin started, and then
Yeah, and I mean, I was aware of her because at the time, uh, Dan Zanes and um, Ralph's World and a few other folks were doing kids music, and I started getting in touch with them just because there weren't. I mean, there've been people making kids music forever, but all of a sudden there were people doing it more on an indie level, and people like Dan were playing in little clubs and at in the basements of a Goodwill store and things like that.
like there was a
And
confluence that brought all of you together.
say that again.
Confluence that essentially brought everyone together.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, for me, I read a review of my second record that was a review of Yellow Bus and a review of Dan's record, Rocket Ship. I'm getting
Right?
confused right now. Yeah.
Rocket Ship
What's that?
Run is Laurie Berkner.
No, not yeah, I know, but what's the Rocket Ship record that Dan made? I'm totally spacing.
Rocket Ship something on the
What is the name of the album?
I don't even know, but I know that
Okay, let me see.
anyway,
Oh, it's called Rocket Ship Beach, and
Rocket Ship
I knew Dan because he played in the Del Fuegos, which was an indie band that I was aware of back in the '80s, and I reached out to Dan, and he was such an amazing uh, person, and just said, "Oh, you should come and play at this venue that I play in Boston," and gave me the contact information, and I told him, the places that I was playing in Chicago and that I was playing at McCabe's Guitar Shop out in Los Angeles, and
Oh,
we just kind of,
McCabe's.
yeah, we traded ideas, and we've been in touch ever since.
Oh
And
yeah, Ant and
Laurie,
Polly are regulars at McCabe's.
yeah, it's a great venue.
Is there
It's
anything you love
super.
about McCabe?
The thing I love about McCabe's is it feels like you're playing in someone's living room, and so it's really intimate and really fun, and you just feel like it's a big party with the audience. It's it's pretty small. It fits maybe 150 people or something like that.
No wonder it's become the favorite of children targeted in the area. No, not in
Yeah,
Siberia,
totally.
but across North America. And then it was not only Noggin that made you famous, but it was a certain presenter who has a hairbrush microphone that made you famous. Can you tell us about the story of you and absolutely someone?
Oh, absolutely, Mindy. Yeah, so I think if I'm not mistaken, it was just XM at the time, but
Yeah,
they started,
they were separate companies. I mean,
yeah,
Sirius
and I
and
think they
XM.
started around 2000 maybe,
One,
but
2001.
2001, there we go. So right when Yellow Bus came out, um, they started, and I during one of my trips to DC, I was able to go and do some on-air stuff with them, and all of the folks there, Mindy included, were just totally awesome, and we recorded some live shows with them, and they just continued to play my stuff, and that certainly was a way that a lot of people have discovered my music through the years, whether on her show or eventually Jack's, and it's an amazing station that so many people celebrate. So
How did
I'm lucky
Mindy
to.
hear about you? How did the XM people hear about you? And
I think it was when I made my second record, I hired a publicist for the first time, and she helped me connect with a lot of different folks, and I think she knew about XM. That was Beth Blends Klukas, who's an amazing person, and I think she probably hooked me up with going out there and doing a radio show the first time, an interview maybe with Mindy. Uh,
yeah,
it's been so long,
so
I don't remember exactly.
what are the memories of your earliest, of the first, the OG XM Kids team? Because
um,
they're celebrating 20 years last year, and I'm asking you this because I'm sure I might be the first person to ask you this ever, but
yeah, I think, the thing I remember is just the creativity and fun that all of them had. And I remember uh, the spontaneity of it and just like being in the studio, and one of the DJs played percussion with me one time and we recorded some stuff. And I remember specifically being on Mindy's show with Liam Davis, who's one of my best friends and producer and musician. And the three of us were on the show together. And Mindy's imagination is just unbelievable and amazing. And she tells great stories on the spot. And you have to really keep up with her improvisation. And that for me was just a blast. I remember laughing a lot, and just sort of I think it probably felt like the beginning of FM radio at the time, in the 70s, because there was a spirit of fun and experimentation. And I feel like that's what has made so many people lifelong fans of Sirius XM's Kids Place Live.
and it's probably probably almost everyone's favorite channel because the programming is so original and so. Um, do you have a favorite personality from the early days other than Mindy?
Um, I mean, it's hard to pick. I think they all have, like, listening to all of their shows, I feel like they all had different ways of approaching how to be a kid's DJ, and they were all unique because there weren't a lot of them. I mean, it was a brand new field, I think, in some ways. Before that, you maybe had a radio show here or there that would do an hour of kids' music, but there wasn't something that was running all the time.
Oh yeah, and speaking of Mindy, what did you think of how she evolved over the years
I mean, that's been
into
amazing to watch. I
into
always,
becoming a world famous podcaster from being the shining star of Sirius XM to a global superstar?
yeah, it's not a surprise to me because from the moment that I was on her show, just in an interview, and watched her live handling the phones and telling stories about living in a sock drawer and all of that stuff, I was like, wow, this I can't even keep up with her. So I'm not surprised that she's become such a popular podcaster.
And what was your initial reaction to Wow in the World?
To which,
To Wow in the World.
oh yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, I think I think it's a great way to teach kids about science, but it's also just super fun and I love, the pop-ups I'm a huge fan of as well, and
I'm a huge
that
fan of the pop-ups,
yeah, that their music is part of it. So yeah, I think it's a blast.
and I do like all the music in your new album called Space Cadet, which is it's upbeat,
Yep.
it's a no holds barred adventure, and if you play it to a kid, they're gonna love it. But if you play it to like someone like me, it'll take them back to like the '90s or the 2000s, or it'll remind them of a childhood TV show. That I mean, were those your inspiration behind the whole thing?
Um, my big inspiration was wanting to make a big record with my band again. Because it's been almost 10 years now that I made Recess, which was a big giant band record. And then I decided to make Lemonade, which was more of a acoustic in the studio album, live in the studio kind of thing. And then I was going to make a band record, and I made Wildlife because my son Eli was born, and that was
Yeah,
the quietest record I've probably ever made. And
and it
so I
was
was really ready to like,
also
oh, go ahead.
Wildlife was also made in a year that was nominated for a Grammy in a year that was very controversial. More on that later. But Wildlife, I mean, it just shows your religious point of view. And were you somewhat nervous about putting Wildlife out because people might shoot you down for being explicitly religious and explicitly preachy?
I don't think it's explicitly religious. I think it depends on how you read the songs, truthfully. Uh, there's imagery in one song, I think, from biblical stories, but I feel like most songwriters borrow from myths and uh, ancient stories and things like that because some of that is common uh, storytelling, and I think it can be powerful. But I,
So
I
the
don't I
main,
don't think of it as being specifically religious myself.
so the main goal of Wildlife is like dedicated for your son. I mean, why why an album like that? Was it to respond to the needs of you making some sort of lullaby album? Which I mean, everyone has done once in their life. I mean, right? And would you think
Yeah, I
that
mean,
it would?
for me, it wasn't really a choice. When you're a songwriter, you're not really in charge of your creativity, and I was trying to write other songs, and those are the songs that came out. And sometimes you just have to follow your muse, and you don't really think about, what you're doing it for, other than you're trying to uh, tell your story and get things out that are coming out of your subconscious. And I try to follow my heart when I'm writing, and that was where my heart was at the time.
So it was filled with myths, legends, and all sorts of stories. And what did people think when they heard it? Were they like amazed? Were they fascinated?
It's hard to ever know where things end up, but you know, a lot of the reactions I got were very emotional responses to it, and I had some fans, with older kids that would listen to it, and it said it brought them right back to when their kids were younger, and then some newer fans with newborns and things said that they would listen to it every night when they would go to sleep. So yeah, it served kind of a lullaby purpose.
I
I
mean,
guess in
it's
general, I was trying to make a comforting record, which I think, children's music can be a million different things. And sometimes it's a comforting sleepy time record, and other times it's get on your feet and dance. And,
yeah, and
other times it's teach people, or, there can be a lot of different ways to make kids music.
it was the kind of album that was needed because of what was happening in the world at the time. And I do have to say that would it be considered your first foray into lullabies? Or
No, because I made one other record. Actually, it's called Lullaby in 2018. I don't know, 2010, let's say. I'm not exactly sure. No, no, it would have been 2012.
Yeah, but
That was the
it,
first time I made a lullaby record, and that was working with members of the Chicago Symphony and doing kind of a chamber music album.
so
And that's all slow songs. So this
in
was kind of my second album of all slower material.
in an essence, it's more of like storytelling, and I do have the feeling that it would. Would you ever imagine if the songs from Wildlife were to be used in some indie documentary of sorts, or
Totally.
maybe a
I would love
film
that. Yeah.
that's because
I sometimes think the songs could be used in other arenas outside of children's music.
maybe in the
Um,
movies or in
yeah, in
TV.
the movies or something like that. I mean, I think the fascinating thing to me about being a kid's musician, ever since I started writing for preschoolers in the early 90s, is you never know what kids are going to respond to, and you can't ever assume they're not going to respond to something. And so I think whereas wildlife, some of it might seem more of a parental voice and more of a kind of comforting voice, not so much me describing, me pretending to be a kid and writing a song from that perspective. I found my son Eli really responds to that record very emotionally and totally understands what the words are about. And, you know, he's at one point we were listening to Wildlife in the morning and the song I've Got the World for You was playing, and it got to the bridge and he broke into tears because
Oh,
it just affected him so much and he didn't know why. And we started talking about how music has such a powerful force, and it can make you laugh and it can make you
yeah.
cry and it can make you excited and all of these things. And it I think it was amazing to see that because sometimes I think some of those songs are more written for adults, but they're written for everyone, really. They're just written for human beings. So
And what made me think of that was how Barry Louis Falsar had his song used in a film, and it it was his sort of like shock of stardom. And
yeah,
would you
that's the first way that I found out about Barry because I didn't know his music
children's music?
until after becoming a kids musician. But I saw that movie and loved that song, um, and so it was
And
kind of cool to meet him finally.
you never thought that his song would be perfect for a movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't even know it was a kid song when I heard it. It was that sort of thing. It just sounded like a kind of cool
Yeah,
indie love song.
I heard it was also used in some commercials at some point.
I think
So
so. Yeah,
yeah, he's
that's
famous
amazing. Yeah, it's
technically.
amazing.
Can you imagine the same thing for wildlife? How would you feel if, like, let's say, a movie or a TV show used wildlife?
Yeah, that would be amazing. I think it could fit a lot of different functions like that. Uh, yeah, I've had a couple things happen like that with songs, and it's a strange experience sometimes. But I had a song from my very first record was used in a commercial for McDonald's in the
Whoa,
early 2000s, and I've since met
whoa,
people. I've met people that like have become fans of the music, but they learned about it from watching a commercial. So it's sort of a
yeah,
weird
kind of like how
experience.
people learned about Barry Louis Falsar from watching a movie that his song was featured in. And
Exactly.
Wildlife was nominated for a Grammy during a year when marred in controversy with the lack of black artists. And why did you want to not give up your Grammy nomination? And how is and what did you think of all the strides towards progress made after, like, All One Tribe, and how the black music community, children's music community has banded together to create a compilation album that celebrates and embraces these cultural minorities?
I think it's great. I was very I'm always excited to see the ways that children's music transforms. When I started doing it, um, mostly I would say, and even when I started, I did a very folky album, and I think a lot of children's music in the U.S., starting with Ella Jenkins and Pete Seeger and people like that, has always had sort of a folky element to it. And then, uh, you know, I started introducing elements of rock and pop rock, uh, and playing with a band, and bands like the Pop-Ups came up and made really electronic pop music, and
Like
um,
80s synths and everything.
yeah, and I mean, I think that was sort of unheard of. And They Might Be Giants made a kids record in the 2000s, and you started seeing, and Bare Naked Ladies. I mean, all these big rock
The
bands started
rock,
making kids records.
the
Um,
harbingers of the rock era of the
yeah, and
90s.
then you know, uh, Secret Agent 23 Skidoo has made so many amazing hip hop records
I
that
heard
are
he had a music
rooted in
festival where he
90s.
lived.
What was that?
I heard 23 Skidoo had a music festival where he lived in
Yeah, Nashville.
Asheville.
I don't know too much about it, but I think, over time, kids music transforms, and it's wonderful to see, more Black artists and more artists of color getting recognition, and uh, having the audience expand into other uh, areas of the population. So
Especially
I'm
with
all for it.
how technology evolved. I mean, why didn't
Yeah.
you give up your Grammy nomination in 2020? Because I heard Joni Leeds come on because if she gave up, she would defeat the purpose of her album. Why did you stay?
I respect the people who chose to do that for the reasons they chose to do it. I uh, didn't think that was the method to go about making change, and I was proud of that record and proud of that nomination, and I uh, I decided to stay in. But I don't, I think everyone made their choice, and we were all friendly about it. So yeah,
And raise awareness for this lack of diversity issue.
and that they did raise awareness.
And since then, it led to how All One Tribe came about. And do
Yeah,
you happen to know Manny from Chicago that I was fortunate enough to have on my show?
who
Nanny
who is it?
Nikki from Chicago.
I do, yeah, and I actually just met her in person for the first time a couple weeks ago. She's awesome.
Woo-hoo! And I hear that. Let's talk about your son Eli, because since you're a children's musician, may I ask, has he ever gotten into children's music? Was it
Oh yeah,
inevitable?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's been sort of he's grown up listening to mixes that my wife creates, which includes some of my own music and other folks, including grown-up artists that she just likes. So he grew up listening to music a lot as an infant, and he has, he's kind of chosen some things he responds to. He really loves uh, Casey Musgrave's song Rainbow, which he loved from a very small age. It used to comfort him whenever he was crying. That song would come on, and he'd just stop crying right away, which is sort of one of those amazing things about music. He's a big Laurie Berkner fan. He's gotten to see Laurie twice in concert, and
Uh, yeah.
he has a signed postcard of her that he, at least for a few months, was carrying around constantly and talking to, and you know,
Yeah, it's
pretending
like
that
he's such a
Laurie was in
big,
our
big
house.
fan of Laurie Berkner, right?
Yeah, and
Was he kind of like
he's also a
you?
big Tom. What's that?
Well, was he kind of like you when Laurie Berkner started? And you became sort of a fan of Laurie?
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Was he like you when Laurie Berkner started, when you became a fan of Laurie? Because,
Was he like me?
yeah,
I'm not getting the question. Sorry.
like, like you were a fan of Laurie Berkner when she started. Am I right?
Laurie and I started at the same time.
And you were a fan of her. So it makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. I've been a fan of Laurie. Yeah, ever since she started, for sure.
And
Um,
it seems like it
yeah,
runs in the family. You're a very
yeah,
Lord
no, but I think that
Berkner family.
it's true. I think you're right, and I think it's cool to see what he responds to. And I mean, he's a big fan of trains, and so he's a big fan of Thomas the Train, and like loves all of that music as well. That's not my favorite stuff in the world, but it's fun to see like what he gravitates to. And
What
then
else?
at home we do a lot of dance party things, and we will listen to uh, Prince, and we'll listen to um, the Beach Boys, and kind of like anything that seems like it'd be fun to dance to. I'll throw it on and see what he thinks
Have
of it.
you listened to
But we
like
listen to a lot of music for grown-ups, as
have you
well as kids' music.
children's artists?
What's that?
See, or did you introduce him to like other children's
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Introduce him to,
artists?
say it one more time. Sorry.
Like in Chicago, I know there's a lot.
Unfortunately, I'm not hearing you very well. It's coming sort of sounding distorted.
Um, does Eli like other children's artists?
Oh, something about other artists?
Yes. Does he like other artists? Laurie?
I can't hear what you're saying. All I hear is other artists.
Other than you or Laurie Berkner?
Other kids artists?
Yes.
Um, I would say primarily he listens to Thomas the Train, Laurie Berkner, and me.
But you're
Uh,
obviously aware of the kind of community you have in Chicago. So maybe it's
yeah, no,
about that.
he listens to Laurie. He's listened to Laurie Doherty. He's listened to Francis England. I don't know.
Oh, has he heard from Little Miss Anne?
He has heard some Little Miss Anne before. He's never seen her live. I mean,
Oh,
because of the pandemic, we haven't really seen a lot of things live. The two experiences he's had is seeing Laurie when she's come to Ravinia. Uh, but I'm hoping maybe as COVID eases, we'll have more
do you
experiences like
have
that.
any favorite artists from the Chicago area?
Any favorite artists?
From
Uh,
Chicago.
yeah, I mean, I love a lot of the people in the community. Laura Doherty is a good friend and an amazing musician. I really like. I think she has such a beautiful voice, uh, and I love hearing her sing. And I did a concert. It was a fundraiser. Um, when was that? It was quite a few years ago, but Little Miss Anne was one of the artists that we had on that bill, and
What do you
We were playing Woody Guthrie songs. So it was a Woody Guthrie kind of birthday show, and he's written a lot of amazing kid songs and other songs, and so yeah, Little Miss Anne was on that show,
what do you think
and
of her?
she's great. Yeah, we have a pretty amazing community. That when I got to meet Miss Nikki, there were, I can't even remember how many exactly, but 7 or 8 of us that went out to brunch together when Lucy Kalantari was in town, and it
Yes,
was
I do have to
it
say
was a
Lucy
blast.
Kalantari is such a darling.
She is. She's amazing, and
I
I got
love
to.
Lucy Kalantari.
She's incredible, and I got to see her son play the cello, which was incredible too. He was visiting at a cello camp in town, and my wife is also a cellist, and it was fun to watch somebody with so much passion for the instrument.
I must say that I love Lucy Kalantari. I love Lucy parenthesis Kalantari should be my new catchphrase
I
or some
bet
sort of
that
like I actually want to trademark it, copyright Matthew Guzman, all rights reserved.
I I
Because
understand
I
that
do love
reference.
her.
I'm surprised that you do, because I'm much older. I
Yeah,
remember watching reruns of that show at some point.
yeah. I think it should be my signature phrase because
I like
I'm a
it.
Skeletary. And yeah, so about Space Cadet, um, what were some, if not all, of the music album?
Say
Is
it again.
what were the musical inspirations behind Space Cadet? Because it's such an again, it's such an album that's out of the box, and that
Yeah, I
seems
mean, I
it's
think they're all over the map. It's probably the music I've uh, been listening to for the past for my whole life. But the way that the record was written primarily was on the computer rather than picking up a guitar. So I would often start with a drum beat and a bass line, or some or a keyboard part or something, and build the song up on my computer. Hence the fact that most of the songs have 10 different instruments on them and all these different vocal parts, is that I kind of layered up the demos, and then recreated it in the studio. But I think influence wise, I mean, there's some obvious stuff like uh, the Beach Boys kind of thing on Dance Party. But even in that song, uh, I make a reference to Prince, since that's one of the things that Eli and I listen to. And the keyboardist on there, plays the Prince riff, and I had him do some Linn drums, which are the electronic drums that Prince used a lot
yeah.
on the breakdown. And so those are some influences on that. And
A
I
lot
think
of
something like,
grown-ups will love it too, and will get it.
yeah, and I think like I've Been a Unicorn sort of has the jangly, maybe REM-ish thing happening on part of it, but it's also a little bit, um, I don't know, country-ish. And then when it goes into the 3/4 at the end and it gets really weird, maybe that's like Sufjan Stevens or something like that. I don't
Also,
know, like the horn parts.
it's like kind of like an over celebration of all everything Weird Al gave us.
Oh, I love Weird Al. Yeah, totally. That's a great reference.
Oh yeah,
And then, Whole Lot of Love in This World, which is a later kind of ballad, piano rock thing, is very Elton John and Billy Joel influenced, maybe. Um, it was really fun to that. There's a string quartet on that, which is features my wife and three other musicians, and it was
yeah.
fun.
What
I wrote a musical for kids a few
music?
years ago, and called Hansel and Gretel, and the orchestrator for that was Andrew Fox, and he did the string quartet arrangement for that song, which I really love. Um,
Ooh, and that musical. Any favorite musicals that you love? Stage plays?
yeah. So I've done one stage play. It was Hansel and Gretel, and it was I wrote the music and the words, and then Ernie Nolan wrote the book, the script, and it was performed in Chicago initially, and then um, a performing arts center in Los Angeles put it on again a few years later and toured it around to some cities in the U.S.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's had a couple other revivals at little small theaters around the country, but hoping to do more of that. I had a couple things going right before the pandemic that ended up stopping because of the pandemic, but
But
I
at
was
least
working on some other
Grace,
musicals.
it's your perfect coming out of hiding album, and it
Yeah, I think
embodies
so.
the way we all want to go on an adventure, right? And do you
Exactly. And
think?
even going on an adventure to the studio with, you know, my band first and then all these other musicians, like even to be in a physical space with other people was unusual, for 2 years. So it was really wonderful to get back to recording with people in person and being in the studio and making a record.
Would you think that grown-ups will enjoy it too? Because what if someone isn't into children's music, but what if I play for them something from Space Cadet? Do you think that it really is something that everyone can enjoy? Because I
I
think
hope
it.
so. Uh, yeah, I hope so. Even from my very earliest record, I've always just tried to make music that I enjoy as an adult. Uh, the time I started writing kid songs, uh, before I even thought of making a kids record, I was in my early 20s, but I was writing songs that, made me laugh or just felt like they were interesting and sounded good. And I didn't really write them thinking like, will a kid like this? So I kind of always am writing, trying to write something that is emotional for me and makes me laugh or makes me, want to jump up and dance.
Something
So I hope
everyone
I
will
hope
love.
adults will like it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Now,
I think kids are amazing, and they'll either respond to or won't respond to a whole bunch of different kinds of music, and it just depends on what you put in front of them, and then you see what they like and what they don't like. And it's been funny with Eli because I will just take things out of my record collection, or he'll even pick things out of my record collection and put them on, not knowing what they are. And some things he really likes, and other things he immediately takes it off and doesn't want to hear it. He's been really into this Donald Byrd record from the '70s that is a totally dancey record, um, called Places and Spaces. And it was not something I thought a kid would like necessarily, but I put it on one time and he really liked it. And then he kept requesting it, and like would point to the
yeah,
album
that's
cover and say, play that
true.
one again. And I'm like, okay, sure. And and he loved it. So
Well, I do have to say this was so much fun, and I'm sorry we're running out of time here, but you're such an interesting person with your creativity and your songwriting. Do you think this
thank you.
conversation was fun?
It was very fun. I'm so happy to hear that you enjoyed Space Cadet. It's always
Yeah.
interesting putting out a new record and not knowing what people are going to think of what's
You
going
know,
through
I'd
your
love
head.
to have you back. I'd love to have you back because you have so many interesting things to tell us.
Awesome. Well, yeah, and you've had so many interesting people on the show. I looked back at all the podcasts you've done, and you've had so many great people, so many people that I'm big fans
Even
of. So
Mickey.
cool to, yeah, totally.
Uh,
And
bye.
Nikki's, yeah, okay. So I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thanks so much.